The vast, dimly lit chamber of the Galactic Council echoed with the sounds of alien voices. The room, shaped like a giant sphere, was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all seated around a massive table that stretched far beyond the eye could see. This was the center of power in the galaxy, a place where decisions were made that shaped the fates of entire worlds. At the center of the table sat the council leader, a towering figure with golden skin and eyes that shone like twin stars. His voice was deep, and as he spoke, every sound seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 years. He addressed the assembly with authority, his tone serious and grim. "The time has come," the leader said, his voice carrying across the room. "The humans have become a threat. They have shown themselves to be unpredictable, dangerous, and powerful. It is time to label them for what they are: apex predators." A murmur ran through the chamber. Representatives from various species shifted in their seats, some nodding in agreement, while others exchanged uneasy glances. The humans had recently made waves across the galaxy with their astonishing technological advancements and their resilience in the face of invasion. But to label them apex predators, was that a step too far? The leader's words continued to ring in the air. They have already defeated the Threxian invaders, and now they threaten the stability of the known galaxy. Their military has grown stronger with each passing day, and their influence is spreading far beyond their homeworld. They are no longer a fledgling species. The time to act is now. The council was divided, but the majority seemed to agree. The Vril, a race of six-limbed warriors known for their keen instincts and honor-bound codes, were the first to speak. Their representative, a hulking figure clad in battle armor, stood up and spoke with a voice that was both calm and forceful. "The humans are dangerous, but not just because of their strength. They are unpredictable. They do not follow the patterns of other species. We fear what they could become if left unchecked." At the far end of the table, a thin, translucent being, the representative of the peaceful Surtherans, raised their hand. "But is it wise to label them so soon? Do we not risk making enemies of them? They have only recently begun to emerge as a galactic power. Can we not give them a chance to prove their intentions?" The Surtheran's voice was soft, but the leader of the council shook his head. "You underestimate them, Surtheran. They have shown time and again that they are capable of acts of war and destruction. Their primitive past is behind them, and they now walk the path of conquest." A voice from the farthest corner of the room, a quiet yet powerful tone, broke through the tension. The representative of the Korthali, a race of ancient wise beings, had not spoken much during the proceedings. But now, their voice was like a weighty stone dropped into still waters. "We must remember," the Korthalian began, "that we too were once considered predators. The galaxy is full of species that have risen to power, some through conquest, others through unity. But none of them were fully understood at first. What if the humans are different? What if they are something more?" The leader of the council stared at the Korthalian for a long moment, as if weighing their words. Then he spoke again, his voice unwavering. "We cannot afford to take such risks. We have seen the damage their unchecked expansion has caused. The galaxy has already suffered at their hands once. The Threxian invasion was just the beginning. We must act now before they grow too powerful." As the debate raged on, one council member, a slender, silver-skinned being with wide, intelligent eyes, stood up. This was Ambassador Elena, a longtime ally of humanity. She had fought for Earth's acceptance into the galactic community for years, and now she found herself in the center of a storm. The weight of what she was about to say settled heavily on her shoulders. "Before we pass judgment on humanity, we must understand the full picture," Elena said, her voice cutting through the noise in the room. "Yes, they are powerful, and yes, they have been involved in conflict. But I ask you, what do we really know about them? What do we know about the true nature of their society, their history, and their future? There are forces at play that we cannot yet comprehend." Her words were met with silence. The council had grown quiet, but Elena could sense the doubt in their eyes. They had already made up their minds. The fear of the unknown, the unpredictability of humanity, had already taken root in their hearts. The Council is not in the business of guessing. We are in the business of safeguarding the galaxy, the leader responded, his voice stern. Humanity's potential for destruction is too great to ignore. We must label them as apex predators, and we must take action to limit their influence. As the leader's words hung in the air, a cold shiver ran down Elena's spine. She knew that once a decision like this was made, there would be no turning back. The Council's verdict would send a message to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity was to be feared, contained, and controlled. The consequences of this decision would be far-reaching, and she knew that she would have to fight harder than ever to prove the humans were not the threat they seemed to be. But as she looked around the chamber, she couldn't shake the feeling that the Council had missed something. There was more to humanity than what they could see, more to Earth than the galaxy realized. If they continued down this path, they would soon find out just how wrong they were. The fate of humanity, and of the galaxy, was hanging by a thread. The Council had passed their judgment, but they had no idea what would come next. The decision was made. The Galactic Council had labeled humanity as apex predators, a species to be feared, contained, and monitored closely. The verdict had been passed with overwhelming support, and soon all of galactic civilization would know of the Council's ruling. The weight of that decision began to settle over the galaxy like a storm cloud, its presence dark and ominous. On Earth, however, no one knew what was coming. The human leaders had been oblivious to the decision until it was too late. The vast network of galactic communication had already broadcasted the Council's decree to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. What the humans didn't know was that the verdict was not just a label, it was the start of something far more dangerous. In the wake of the Council's ruling, human diplomats scrambled to understand the growing tension. The ambassadors of Earth had been called into emergency meetings, trying to keep the peace between the many alien species that had once viewed humanity with admiration. Earth's military command was also on high alert, aware that their unexpected rise in power had drawn attention, but they had no idea how much danger they were truly in. Among the chaos, one man stood out, a scientist named Dr. Lucas Hale, who had always believed that humanity's true potential had yet to be discovered. He had been studying Earth's ancient past, trying to piece together a mysterious history of the human race that seemed to stretch back further than anyone could have imagined. Dr. Hale had been convinced for years that there was something more to Earth than met the eye, something buried deep in its core, waiting to be uncovered. Dr. Hale had been working on a project that many in the scientific community had dismissed as foolishness. He believed that humanity's ancestors had not originated on Earth at all, but had once been part of an ancient, advanced civilization that spanned across the galaxy. His research had uncovered hints of lost technology, artifacts, and even strange markings found in the ruins of ancient cities across Earth. While many dismissed his theories as mere speculation, Hale was certain that humanity's origins were far more complex than anyone had realized. When the Galactic Council passed its ruling, Dr. Hale saw the danger in front of him. If humanity was truly being seen as a threat, the galaxy's powerful factions would be watching closely. The Council's actions, while intended to protect the galaxy from humanity's growing influence, would likely trigger a chain reaction, one that could lead to war or worse, the isolation of Earth from the rest of the universe. In the depths of Earth's most secure research facility, Hale and his team of scientists began to delve deeper into the mysteries they had uncovered. The more they studied, the more they began to realize that humanity's hidden potential wasn't just about technological advancements or military strength. No, it was something much older, something ancient, powerful, and possibly dangerous. A series of unexpected discoveries sent chills down their spines. The human genome had traces of an unknown DNA sequence, an anomaly that didn't belong to any species currently known to the galaxy. It was a genetic code unlike anything they had seen, an ancient imprint that suggested humanity was far older and more advanced than the Galactic Council could ever imagine. Hale's theories were starting to take shape. Humanity wasn't just an emerging power in the galaxy. They were part of something much larger. But as they dug deeper, things began to take a darker turn. The deeper the team went into the research, the more they unearthed unsettling truths. They uncovered a warning buried in ancient texts, written by long-lost civilizations that had once shared the galaxy with humanity's ancestors. The texts spoke of a forgotten race, an advanced species that had once ruled the stars. According to the texts, humanity's ancestors had been the chosen ones, created by this ancient race to be the guardians of the galaxy. They were meant to protect the galaxy from an even greater threat, a force so powerful and so destructive that it threatened to tear the universe apart. Dr. Hale's heart raced as the implications of his discovery sank in. The Council had labeled humanity as predators because they didn't understand them. They had misunderstood humanity's true nature, labeling them as a threat when, in fact, humanity might be the key to saving the galaxy from an even greater danger, one that no one had anticipated. But time was running out. The Council's decree had already set things in motion. With the galaxy now on high alert, many of the species that had once seen humanity as a potential ally were beginning to distance themselves. Some were preparing to take action, planning to strike before humanity could grow too powerful. The clock was ticking, and Dr. Hale knew that if the truth came out, it could change everything. The young scientist shared his findings with a small group of trusted allies, carefully keeping the information hidden from the galactic powers that were already making their moves. They were shocked by what they heard, but they knew that humanity's fate now rested on this secret. If the galaxy's leaders discovered the truth, it could be the key to understanding humanity's true role in the cosmos. If they remained unaware, humanity would continue to be viewed as a dangerous force, a species that needed to be contained. As Dr. Hale stared out at the stars, he couldn't help but wonder how much longer they had before the galaxy discovered the truth about humanity. Would they continue to see them as apex predators, or would they finally understand their true purpose? The answers to these questions would determine the fate of Earth, and possibly the entire galaxy. But one thing was clear: humanity was no longer a small, insignificant species. They were a force to be reckoned with, whether the galaxy was ready for them or not. And in the shadows, something ancient was waking, something that would change everything. The Council might have labeled humanity as a threat, but they had no idea what they were about to unleash. Dr. Hale's discovery had sent ripples across the scientific community, but what they had unearthed was far more than a curiosity. It was a call to arms. The ancient texts spoke of an impending danger, one that was slowly waking from its slumber, hidden in the deepest corners of the galaxy. The creature described in the texts was not just an enemy. It was a force of nature, a cosmic entity that had devoured entire civilizations in the past. And now, according to the warning, it was heading for the galaxy once again. The implications of this discovery were staggering. Humanity, with all its flaws and complexities, was somehow connected to this ancient race that had fought against this monstrous entity eons ago. Dr. Hale and his team began to question everything they had learned about their own history. How was it possible that such an ancient, advanced civilization had left behind clues about a cosmic monster, and why had humanity's ancestors been chosen to fight it? But the Council's decision had already sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Human ambassadors, now deemed a threat, were dismissed from diplomatic talks. The threat of war loomed closer with each passing day. But Dr. Hale knew that none of that mattered if they couldn't uncover the full truth in time. Humanity had to be prepared, not just for the galaxy's hostile reaction, but for something much worse. With the clock ticking, Hale gathered a small team of trusted scientists, each one of them a specialist in various fields, to continue the work in secret. They worked around the clock, poring over ancient manuscripts, decoding encrypted files from a long-lost civilization, and studying the strange artifact Hale had uncovered. As the team worked, they slowly began to uncover more about humanity's hidden abilities, abilities tied directly to the creature described in the ancient texts. The deeper they dug, the more they realized humanity had not just been created by the ancient civilization. They were linked to it in ways no one had understood. Their bloodline contained a dormant power, one that could awaken when the time was right. The artifact, now carefully analyzed, had once belonged to those who fought the cosmic entity long ago, and it had been hidden away on Earth, waiting for the day when humanity would need to use it. The alien races that had labeled humanity as a threat were unaware of the danger looming ahead. They thought of Earth's inhabitants as nothing more than a species that had grown too strong too fast, a species with no real understanding of their place in the galaxy. But the truth was far more complicated and far more terrifying. As Hale and his team decoded the final parts of the artifact's message, they were horrified by what they learned. The creature, known only as the Devourer, was not a single being, but a force that consumed entire galaxies, leaving nothing behind but ashes. Its first awakening had been centuries ago, and it had left a trail of destruction so vast that it had been nearly impossible to track. It had taken the combined forces of many advanced civilizations to imprison it, but the Devourer had never been destroyed. It had only been sealed away. And now, it was awakening once more. The artifact's final message was clear. Humanity's destiny was tied to the Devourer. They were the ones who had the power to stop it, but only if they could unlock the full potential of their ancient heritage. The key to stopping the Devourer lay within the very blood of humanity. But they would have to act quickly, for the galaxy's clock was ticking. Dr. Hale knew that the Council's decision to label humanity as apex predators had been a mistake. The truth was far worse than they could have ever imagined. They had made their ruling based on fear, but humanity wasn't a threat to the galaxy. They were the galaxy's last hope. But could they convince the Council of this in time? Or would the galaxy's leaders continue to view humanity as a dangerous species that needed to be contained? As Hale looked around the room at his team, he saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. The path ahead would not be easy. They would have to confront not only the Devourer, but also the galactic powers that viewed them as a threat. The fate of the galaxy, and perhaps even the universe, rested on their shoulders. The first step was clear. They had to awaken humanity's true potential, and fast. But the Council wasn't finished. The galaxy wasn't done with humanity. And a new, even darker threat was just beginning to stir in the shadows, unaware of the storm that was about to rise. The galaxy was buzzing with whispers of war, of humanity's dangerous rise. The Council's decision had cast a shadow over Earth, one that seemed impossible to escape. Across the stars, alien fleets gathered, each preparing for the worst. The universe's most powerful species, who had once seen humans as insignificant, now eyed them with suspicion, preparing to strike before Earth could grow too strong. But they were blind to the true danger looming in the dark corners of space, a force far worse than anything humanity could ever become. On Earth, the situation had become dire. Dr. Hale and his team, locked away in a secret research facility, were racing against time. Every moment counted, for they now knew what humanity had to do to stop the Devourer. The ancient race that had once fought it had left a legacy written into humanity's very DNA. The power to stop the cosmic entity lay dormant within them, but unlocking it was a dangerous task. The Council's decree had forced Earth's leaders into action. Despite the military's overwhelming focus on defense, Dr. Hale knew that Earth's armies were no match for the Devourer. Even if the galaxy attacked, it wouldn't matter. The true battle was not against other species, it was against the darkness that was slowly creeping toward them. It was late at night when Hale, exhausted from endless hours of study, called his team into the control room. The facility's walls hummed with a low vibration as the team gathered, their faces lit by the glow of monitors, filled with cryptic symbols and ancient texts. "We've found it," Dr. Hale said, his voice barely above a whisper. the key to unlocking humanity's potential. The room grew silent, every eye on Hale, waiting for him to elaborate. Hale paused, glancing at the holographic projections that surrounded them, displaying the ancient relics they had uncovered. With one motion, he activated a new sequence. It was an ancient artifact, a sphere with inscriptions that glowed faintly in the dark. When the artifact had been discovered, no one could make sense of it. But now, Hale knew its purpose. This device, Hale continued, is a neural interface. It will allow us to tap into humanity's ancient power, the power we've been hiding for millennia. If we can unlock the dormant genetic code within us, we may be able to harness the strength needed to stop the devourer. The team exchanged uneasy glances. The risks were enormous. This wasn't just about activating some hidden ability. It was about awakening something that hadn't been touched in eons, a power buried deep within the very essence of humankind. The consequences of failure could be catastrophic, but the consequences of inaction were far worse. "We don't have a choice," Hale said, his voice growing more determined. "The galaxy may think we're a threat, but they don't understand what we're facing. If we don't act now, the devourer will consume everything. Us, them, the entire galaxy." His words struck a chord with his team. They knew this wasn't just a battle for Earth's survival anymore. It was a battle for the survival of everything. And so, they began the dangerous process of awakening humanity's true potential. For days, Hale and his team worked without rest, scanning human genomes, deciphering encrypted genetic sequences, and activating the neural interface that would help unlock the dormant power. With each step, they uncovered more about the ancient civilization that had once shaped humanity's destiny. They learned that the power within humanity had been intentionally hidden, sealed away to protect the universe from the very danger they now faced. But as they reached the final stages of the process, a sudden, unexpected event shook the facility. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered as a massive energy surge flooded the building. Dr. Hale's heart raced as he rushed to his console, his hands shaking as he tried to make sense of the data. The interface had activated, but there was something wrong. Something was stirring in the depths of the machine. Outside the facility, in the far reaches of space, the galaxy was beginning to react. The alien fleets that had once viewed Earth as a curiosity now turned their attention toward it. Fearing the unknown, they prepared to strike first, their weapons aimed at Earth's defense systems. The Council's decision to label humanity as apex predators had set off a chain reaction. The universe was on the brink of a galactic war. But Dr. Hale was unaware of the approaching conflict. His focus remained on the artifact. The neural interface had done something unexpected, something neither he nor his team could have predicted. The dormant power inside humanity had begun to awaken, but it wasn't just humanity's power that was surfacing. The very entity that had been sealed away for millennia, the devourer, was also beginning to stir. The interface had created a link between the ancient power within humanity and the cosmic entity they had feared. It was as if the devourer had been waiting for this moment, waiting for humanity to reach a point where they could no longer ignore the power hidden inside them. Hale watched in horror as the data on the screen began to change. The energy readings were spiking, far beyond anything they had expected. It was as though a beacon had been activated, a signal calling out into the darkness of space. The devourer was awakening, and humanity had just unwittingly triggered it. In that moment, Hale understood the terrible truth. Unlocking humanity's full potential wasn't just a race against the galaxy's fears. It was a race against time. The devourer had already begun its journey toward them, and once it reached Earth, there would be no stopping it. What they had awakened could save them, or destroy them all. As the alarms grew louder, Hale looked out the window at the stars. He knew that the battle for the galaxy had just begun, but the galaxy itself wasn't ready for the truth about humanity. And neither was Earth. The countdown had begun. As the final energy readings surged on their monitors, Dr. Hale's heart pounded in his chest. The room was filled with frantic whispers as his team scrambled to make sense of the impossible situation. The Devourer, the entity they had fought to be long sealed away, was awakening, and humanity had just played a part in stirring it. The neural interface had been designed to unlock humanity's dormant power, but something went terribly wrong. What had been intended as a way to activate ancient abilities had instead connected humanity's deepest power to the very force they were meant to stop. Hale stared at the screen, barely able to comprehend what was happening. The power readings were off the charts, as though the universe itself was aligning to bring humanity face to face with the looming threat. "What do we do now?" one of the scientists, Dr. Sarah Miller, asked, her voice shaking with fear. "This wasn't supposed to happen. We weren't ready for this." Hale didn't answer right away. He knew the answer, but it wasn't something he could share easily. They had no time to fix the interface or reverse the process. The damage was done, and the Devourer was no longer something lurking in the shadows. It was coming. The device had sent a signal into deep space, one that the Devourer had been waiting for. The entity had now locked onto Earth, and there was no turning back. "We need to stop it," Hale said finally, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "We need to find a way to contain the Devourer before it reaches Earth." Dr. Miller's face turned pale as she stared at the screen, watching the faint dots of light that represented alien fleets beginning to surround the Earth. But they weren't the problem. The problem was something far worse. In the depths of space, far beyond their reach, the Devourer was stirring. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the news of humanity's awakening spread like wildfire. The Galactic Council, already suspicious of Earth's rise, had quickly noticed the power surge that was emanating from the planet. They had been watching, waiting, but now they understood the full extent of what humanity had done. What they had hoped to contain had already been unleashed. An emergency meeting was called. Representatives from the Council's most powerful factions convened, each one with their own plan of action. Some wanted to launch an immediate attack on Earth, fearing that the planet's mysterious power might cause an even greater disaster. Others were more cautious, realizing that the Devourer posed an even greater threat, one that could destroy them all. "Do we act now?" the Shrontar ambassador asked, his voice deep and gravelly. "We cannot risk this power growing. We must take action. We cannot destroy them." The Terran ambassador, Duran, said firmly. "Humanity is not the enemy here. They've made a grave mistake, but they didn't do this intentionally. We need to help them." The council members argued back and forth, their voices growing louder, but no one could agree on the best course of action. What was clear, however, was that humanity had unwittingly triggered a countdown. The Devourer was on its way. Back on Earth, Dr. Hale and his team were working tirelessly to find a solution. They began exploring ancient texts for clues, looking for anything that might explain how to contain or stop the entity that was headed straight for them. But the more they searched, the more they realized how little they truly knew. It was then that Hale stumbled upon something, a line buried deep in the ancient manuscripts. It was a reference to a weapon, a force capable of sealing the Devourer once again. The weapon, however, was not a physical object. It was a power that resided within humanity's very essence, the same power that had been locked away for centuries. To use it, they would need to unlock the full potential of humanity, a power far beyond anything they had even begun to tap into. But there was a catch. The power wasn't something that could be wielded easily. It required unity, a connection between all of humanity, a collective consciousness that had to come together at the right moment. If even one person failed to connect, the power would backfire and Earth would be lost. Hale's mind raced as he tried to figure out how they could bring the entire planet together in time. They would need to awaken humanity's full potential, and they would need to do it fast. As he began to work on a plan, news arrived that the first wave of the alien fleet had entered Earth's orbit. They were preparing to strike, their weapons locked and ready. But Hale knew that the alien fleet, even in its overwhelming might, wasn't the true threat. The Devourer was. "Time is running out," Hale muttered to himself. We don't have much time before the Devourer reaches us. But something unexpected happened. A message arrived from the Galactic Council, one that had been kept secret from the public. Jaren, the Terran ambassador, had made a bold move. He had convinced several of the council members that humanity was not the true threat, and they had decided to help. An alliance had been formed. An alliance of alien species who would work together with humanity to stop the Devourer. It wasn't much, but it was a start. For the first time since the council's verdict, there was a glimmer of hope. But Hale knew that the real battle was just beginning. The fate of Earth now rested not only on humanity's ability to awaken its hidden power, but on whether the galaxy's species could overcome their fear and distrust of one another. The Council's decision had set everything in motion, and now every second counted. As Hale looked out the window, he saw the vast expanse of space stretching before him, endless and dark. But in that darkness, he knew there was still a chance. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin, and this time, the galaxy would learn just how much Earth had to offer. The countdown was ticking, and humanity's true destiny had only just begun. The first signs of the Devourer's arrival were subtle. At first, only the faintest tremors in space, small fluctuations in the energy fields that surrounded the galaxy, indicated the cosmic force's approach. But those subtle tremors quickly escalated into something far more terrifying. Entire star systems began to flicker and fade from existence, their lights snuffed out as though they had never been. The Devourer was drawing closer, its destructive power already starting to tear through the universe, and Earth was its next target. Dr. Hale and his team had barely completed their plans when they received confirmation. The Devourer was on its way. The entire galaxy was on high alert. Ships were launched, weapons primed, and evacuation orders were given. But despite all the military might assembled by the galaxy's most powerful races, none of it mattered. The Devourer was a force beyond anything they had ever faced. It didn't care for weapons or diplomacy. It only cared about one thing: destruction. On Earth, Hale knew that they were running out of time. The galaxy's fleet was already gathering outside the solar system, ready to strike if necessary. But humanity wasn't ready. Not yet. They were still struggling to awaken their full potential, to unlock the power that would save them all. And there was no guarantee it would work. As Hale worked late into the night, poring over ancient data and scanning the final clues from the artifact, he realized something he had missed before. The key to humanity's power wasn't just about unlocking their dormant abilities. It was about the connections between humans, the bonds that tied them together. The collective consciousness of humanity had the power to resist the Devourer, but only if they united in thought and spirit. The problem was that unity didn't exist. Humanity was still divided, fractured by years of war, conflict, and distrust. How could they possibly tap into their full potential if they couldn't even agree on basic ideals? How could they overcome the fears that had kept them apart for so long? "We need to unite," Hale said aloud, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "It's the only way." His team exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how such a thing could be achieved. But Hale's mind was already racing with ideas. He would have to reach out to Earth's leaders, rally the people, and make them understand. The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands, and it wasn't just about them anymore. It was about the entire universe. Meanwhile, the alien fleets continued to assemble, their weapons aimed at Earth, prepared to fire at the first sign of aggression. The Council had made it clear: humanity was to be treated as a threat. Even if they hadn't yet done anything to provoke the galaxy, the Council feared what humanity might become once their true power was unleashed. It was a fear that ran deep, a fear that blinded them to the reality of the situation. The galaxy was on the verge of collapse, and yet the Council couldn't see that the only ones who could stop it were the very species they had feared. Dr. Hale knew he had to act fast. He immediately began working on a plan to reach every corner of the globe, to spread the message of unity. He couldn't rely on governments or the military. They were too caught up in their own fears and power struggles. The only way humanity could save itself was if the people united, if every human being joined together to awaken the power that had been lying dormant for centuries. It wasn't long before Hale's message spread. Across the globe, millions began to take part in the unprecedented initiative. It was a movement that transcended borders, religions, and ideologies. People from every walk of life, scientists, teachers, doctors, soldiers, and ordinary citizens, came together to help unlock humanity's hidden power. The collective energy of every individual on Earth was needed, and slowly the bonds between people began to strengthen. It was as though the very essence of humanity was awakening, like a dormant seed finally sprouting. But the devourer was closer than ever. Dr. Hale could feel it. The entity's power was growing stronger by the minute, its influence stretching across the galaxy, corrupting everything it touched. Earth was at the center of its focus. But as humanity's collective consciousness began to grow stronger, something extraordinary began to happen. A new force, something raw and untamed, started to flow through them. The power they had unlocked was not just energy. It was the very essence of life, of creation itself. It was a power that even the devourer could not comprehend. But the battle was far from over. As the alien fleets prepared for battle, Hale and his team continued to guide humanity toward unlocking the full potential of their collective will. They were close, so close, to fully awakening the power they needed to fight the devourer. But they knew that time was running out. If they failed to connect everyone in time, the devourer would arrive, and it would be too late to stop it. As the final moments ticked down, Hale made a last-ditch effort. He initiated the final sequence of the neural interface, hoping that humanity's collective mind would be powerful enough to stop the devourer. The energy surge was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It radiated from Earth, spreading out into space like a shockwave, a brilliant burst of light that cut through the darkness. For a moment, it seemed like the universe held its breath. And then, the devourer's advance stopped, its destructive path halted. The force that had been unstoppable, that had consumed countless galaxies before, now found itself trapped in the wave of energy sent out by humanity. The devourer was not just faced with an opposing force, it was faced with the very essence of life itself. The alien fleets that had surrounded Earth watched in stunned silence as the devourer recoiled, its once invincible power now faltering against the unity of humanity. For the first time, the galaxy's greatest threat was helpless, unsure how to counter the power humanity had awakened. Dr. Hale and his team could only watch as the energy intensified, slowly pushing the devourer back into the farthest reaches of space. The creature's hold on the galaxy weakened with every passing second. The devourer had been stopped, but not by weapons or force. It had been stopped by humanity's strength to come together, to unite as one and face down the darkness that threatened to consume them all. But the galaxy's fight was far from over. The devourer may have been forced into retreat, but it had only been delayed. And now, the entire galaxy knew one truth. Humanity was not a species to be feared. It was a species that could rise to face even the darkest of forces. The countdown had ended, but the real battle had only just begun. The devourer was not easily defeated. Though the collective energy of humanity had managed to push it back, the entity was relentless, its hunger insatiable. The victory humanity had tasted was fleeting, a temporary reprieve. As the weeks passed, the galaxy remained on high alert. The fleets that had once surrounded Earth had now scattered, but they still kept watch, fearful of what humanity might do next. Some believed the battle was won, but those with a deeper understanding of the universe knew better. Dr. Hale stood in the control room of the research facility, his face drawn with exhaustion. His team had continued their work in the aftermath of the brief but monumental victory. They had successfully halted the devourer's advance, but they had only delayed its return, and they had no way of knowing when it would strike again. "We've made progress," Hale said to his team. his voice tight. "But this is only the beginning. The Devourer will be back. We have to be ready." His team nodded in grim agreement, but the question remained. How could they prepare for something as unpredictable and powerful as the Devourer? The very fabric of the galaxy had trembled under its weight, and no one knew how long it would be before it returned, more dangerous than ever. As Hale reviewed the data from the neural interface, a thought crossed his mind. The power humanity had unlocked wasn't just a defense. It was something far more profound. It was life itself, the essence of creation that had been buried deep within the species. But what if that power could be used for more than just defense? What if humanity's true potential lay in its ability to not only fight the darkness, but to reshape the very fabric of existence? "Perhaps we've been looking at this all wrong," Hale murmured to himself. "What if we could learn to control the energy we've awakened? Not just use it to stop the Devourer, but to change the course of the future." His team gathered around, intrigued by the thought. Hale had always been the one with the big ideas, but this time it felt different. He was speaking not just as a scientist, but as someone who understood the true power humanity had unlocked. "We've only begun to understand the implications of this power," Hale continued. "But if we can learn to control it, we might be able to harness it in ways no one has ever imagined. We can become more than just a species trying to survive. We can become a force for creation itself." It was a bold idea, one that no one had dared consider. But the more Hale spoke, the more it seemed possible. Humanity's collective consciousness was strong enough to push back the Devourer, but what if it could do more? What if humanity could reshape the galaxy, creating a future where peace and unity were no longer just dreams, but realities? The team began to work tirelessly, refining their understanding of the energy they had unlocked. They learned that the key was not just in unity, but in the creation of something new. The neural interface was not just a tool to awaken humanity's dormant power. It was a gateway to something far more powerful: the ability to create, to shape reality itself. But as they worked to refine their understanding of this energy, something unexpected happened. Across the galaxy, the signs of the Devourer's return began to show once more. This time, however, it wasn't just a physical force. The Devourer had learned from its previous encounter with humanity. It had adapted. The creature was now using the very energy humanity had awakened to turn the galaxy against them. Its dark influence spread like a virus, corrupting the very essence of creation. Entire systems were falling under its sway, planets turning into barren wastelands. The Devourer wasn't just a force of destruction anymore. It was a force of decay, of corruption. "We were too slow," Dr. Hale said, his voice filled with regret. "We've unlocked a power that the Devourer can use against us. We have to stop it before it's too late." But Hale's words seemed to hang in the air, unanswered. Humanity had no more time to waste. The galaxy was beginning to crumble, and Earth's only hope lay in its ability to control the very energy the Devourer sought to corrupt. As the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Hale and his team prepared for the inevitable. It was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting the future of the galaxy. Humanity had awakened a power that could either save or destroy them all. The question was, would they be able to control it in time to stop the Devourer's influence from spreading further? The answer would come soon enough. Across the galaxy, the fleets began to assemble once again. But this time, they weren't preparing for war. They were preparing for something far more desperate: a final stand. Dr. Hale had a plan, but he knew that it would take everything humanity had to make it work. They had already shown the galaxy what they could do once. Now, it was time to show the Devourer that humanity wasn't just a species to be feared. They were a species that could rise to any challenge, no matter how great. The countdown had begun once more. And this time, humanity was ready to make its final stand.